could have given up, but you didn't. You could have stopped believing, but you didn't. You could have kept living their expectations, but you decided to make this life your own. And in turn, you're here. Hello everyone, today we're meeting Jojo Woodstock. He's the founder of Energy on Command and also Recharge Community nonprofit organization. Hi Jojo, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Anna. Thank you for having me to the Intern Podcast.
Thank you. And let's start our conversation by diving into your story of becoming the person you are today. If you can just share with us, how did it all start for you? What led you to discovering your own true passion in life?
Oh, that's a great starting question. So I was born in New York, and in New York, if you're not familiar with New Yorkers, there's a high intensity of energy there. There's a lot of anxiety that runs in the background of life, and I grew up with this mentality that that anxiety served me, that I was able to go and be successful in sales and in business because of that eat or be eaten mentality, or that tough New Yorker mentality that so many people there have. And there just became a time where that didn't serve me anymore. It in fact made me sick. I became this identity of being Joe Woodstock from New York with anxiety, and I had to go and unravel some of that so that I can really get back into my heart and connect it up to my true self. So the journey, it's what's interesting is I grew up in a family. My dad has had multiple sclerosis for my whole life. So I was always around, the ideas of neuroscience and energy and learning balance, and it just had been something that had been of interest to me from a young age. And I went into the medical device field, and I worked for great companies like St. Jude Medical and some startup companies selling everything from interventional cardiology devices to implantable pain pumps and spinal cord stimulators. So I'd always been really interested in health and wellness from a young age, just kind of growing up in a family that, again, there was a little bit of, health problems going on. So it was just natural for me to kind of explore and to wonder what's going on and what can be better here. So after I spent about 7 years as this device rep, I burnt out. And I don't like to blame the job for the burnout, but I do like to explain it as it was like the spark on a dry forest. And the stress of being in the hospital and, doing what I had been doing for years, it kind of just started quietly piling up. And then due to some turns of events, it started its ignition. So I left that line of work, and then I started traveling the world to try to find some solutions to this. It was a chance for me to go and to turn over those stones from my past and to really look back on life and to find those programs that served me and those ones that didn't serve me, or the patterns from my family or from the culture, or just what my experiences were in life, and determine, okay, is this who I want to be? Is this how I want to feel? Yes, great. No, okay, let's find out what is a healthier way to go about health and healing, and then let's try to reprogram those codes in. So that journey took me to Thailand, where I learned about body work, and then I spent some time doing Vipassana meditations, which are 10-day silent meditations. And even to the plant medicine realm of things. I've been to Peru a few different times for different ayahuasca retreats, and I now live in Austin, Texas, where there's a big psychedelic revolution going on here. But ultimately, I see all of these different things as tools in the toolbox to help one cultivate their inner awareness. And the more we can turn down the volume from our senses and focus inward into our body, that's when we can start to realize our true power, realize our energy, and how we can make an impact and make a difference in the world.
Right. And you just mentioned the important part of all of that is to come to the place of self-awareness. And that usually takes a different route for different people. But with you realizing that you have that potential, you have that power, and what are the tools that could help you to tune into that power? And you mentioned to you try different approaches, yoga and other type of techniques, but I also know that you created on Command program. And what exactly the purpose behind it, and what inspired you to create that program, put it together? If you can just elaborate more of what idea is behind and how it helps others.
Yeah, absolutely. Energy on Command is a 10-week group coaching transformational program where you're given the recipe to make these changes in your life. One of the things that I noticed on this journey was that there is a specific order in which you need to do things to heal, right? To cultivate that awareness. It would be like baking a cake. Let's say you go to the store and you buy your eggs, your flour, the vanilla, the milk, the sugar, the chocolate chips, anything else that you want to put in the cake. You get home, you turn on the oven, you mix the ingredients together, you put the cake in the oven, you sit down, and 5 minutes later, you realized, oh no, I didn't put the eggs in the cake. You can't just take the cake out of the oven, crack the eggs on top, and pop it back in and expect a cake to come out. And you can't put the frosting in the cake before the cake is finished, baking. So it took me a long time to realize that there's a sequence and an order to really being able to get the most out of any of the different techniques that you're doing. Now, if you're not on this journey yet, I would suggest that anything that piques your interest, go with, right? You don't want to, suppress any of those natural intuitive hits that might guide you to something. My first reconnection, if you will, was in a yoga class. I loved to do Bikram yoga, the hot yoga style. And at the end of the class, we do what's called Shavasana, which is just you're laying down there. You're pretty exhausted after a hard yoga flow in a hot room. And I remember exactly, it was 2014, and I was sitting there, and I, for the first time ever, really got into what people in the spiritual world call the void, meaning like I didn't know if I was asleep. I didn't know what was happening, but everything kind of just stopped. I was in nothing, in blackness. And when the instructor guided us out of the Shavasana, I had to check in with myself, because I said, well, I'm pretty sure I wasn't asleep. I felt like I was asleep, and it was just all, I didn't really know what happened. And then I think that was the first real like, okay, I'm starting to understand that there's something in yoga beyond just the physical movement of the body, which was the real reason that I started it, because, I'm a guy, we're tight, we work out, I just wanted some more flexibility in my body. Mm-hmm. But shortly thereafter, I started meditating. I had a woman who lived in the building that I had owned a condo in, and she was like the mom for me in the building there. My parents are up in New York, and this was in Florida, so she was so sweet. She would come by and she would bring me food and just different things. And for Christmas one year, she would always see me in the elevator with my yoga, my mat and my towel, and I'd be soaked, I'd be sweaty. And she would say, well, do you meditate? Like, nah, I'm not really into meditation yet. She gave me a Meditation for Dummies book. And in that book, there was a CD, and it sat on a shelf for a little while. And then one day I was just like, let me pop this in there. And I just happened to catch the first, 3 or 4 tracks on the CD. And I was like, okay, this is cool. There's something to this. I started with the Headspace app. I found the narrator, Andy, the main guy from Headspace. His voice was he has an English accent. He's so calm and cool and collected. And I just really liked the way he would be able to lead you into a meditation in 10 minutes. And you're being guided. So it's not like you're sitting there and, trying to stop your thoughts all the time, which is one of the big reasons that you hear when people, if you ask them if they meditate, they say, I can't get my brain to stop working. Well, it's very hard to do that, right? It's like you don't get your heart to stop beating, right? It's a level of mastery that it takes to slow down the mind to get to that nothingness. The juice in the meditation is when you recognize that the mind has wandered off in thought, and you pull it back to your anchor point, your breath or your heart or whatever it is that you're focusing on. So I started pretty lightly with the headspace stuff, just kind of getting into that because it was great, just as like an easy stress relief, or just hearing the guy's voice honestly just made me nice and calm. And then that kind of started the journey from there. It was the Headspace app was integral for me as I was going through my transitions and really at the peak of my burnout. And then from there, I had just started with a lot of the other different meditation teachers that were popular around that time, Sam Harris and, a number of others. And it led me from one thing to the next. Before I knew it, I was, taking Thai massage school in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and signing up for 10-day silent meditations in Jakarta. So it just was an experience for me that unfolded. I didn't really have any plan, but one thing led to the next, led to the next, led to the next. So that's why I was suggesting that if you have that inkling, if you're feeling like, okay, I know that there's something, that I'm part of a bigger picture, right? Like I am nature. And while I might feel separate in a way from you or the next person, when you zoom out from planet Earth and you see, our planet is one and there's billions of people here, it's like, well, there's billions or trillions of cells within my body and there's billions of people on this planet. Like to some degree, it's just, it's a microcosm and a macrocosm. So follow what is available to you, what interests you. And if you don't know what those interests are yet, check out Headspace. It's a really low barrier to entry and a great start. I even got my dad to do it, which I would have never thought he would be into meditation. So
yeah, I love meditation, and I know it's usually like you said, like an entry level for people to start. Kind of like quieten their mind and all that background noise and tuning in to themselves, to what really going on inside of them, all of those emotions, feelings that stuck inside of them, and they need to process them actually. And like you mentioned, you've been in corporate job, working for medical device company, and you got burned out. So a lot of people are in the same shoes as you've been, and we'll all experience that burnout and stress and anxiety. And usually it's hard for us to stop and just ask ourselves, what is it that we're feeling? How to us to kind of like name that emotion and process it, because we're on the run, always trying to chase something, and we don't check in. And I think it's because usually we don't prioritize our mental and physical health enough to kind of dedicate time on a daily basis to give ourselves that space where we can just release all of that stress, anxiety, and process those emotions. And I feel like meditation is one of the great tools that we all can start with and see if that leads to something else. And there are a lot of practitioners who can help people to go through changes, to go through transformation in their life. And I know you've been trained in tension release exercises, techniques. If you can just give us a couple of maybe tools or techniques that people can use in their daily routines and start incorporating in their lives after they feel that stress. If you can just share a couple of them, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah. So you had asked me originally about Energy on Command. And TRE, the trauma and tension releasing exercises, are in week 2 of Energy on Command. So my journey with meditation, I still meditate every day with teachers like Dr. Joe Dispenza and others. And meditation is great, but there is an aspect of sitting and doing nothing and focusing and or releasing and just, tuning into the nothingness. Energy on Command has meditation aspects in it, but it also has movement components into it, energy components from Taoist practices. So the ancient Chinese Taoists had these different things that they would do so that they can, again, tune into the forces of nature and and be one so that they could be in balance. So creating the Energy on Command system, I wanted to make it so that the sequence and the order in which you're doing things makes sense. You had said, hey, look, there are, doing these exercises to sit down and to let go of the mental stresses. The problem that people come up against is that they don't have an instruction manual. They know that they kind of want to do something like that. So they maybe do a little research online on their own, and then maybe they start, but they're not able to sustain it because there's no structure, and there's no, okay, I'm at point A and I want to get to point C. Let me go do this and then this and then this. Energy on Command teaches us how to first and foremost ground ourselves, because if your battery of your car, for instance, let's say that the battery got all corroded. When you try to go turn on your car, if the car's not really well grounded, the engine's not going to start, or it's not going to run smoothly. And our human bio batteries are not much different. As we get older, these things start to corrode, and we have to do certain things like walking barefoot or different practices so that we can connect into the earth, because we live in this magnetic field, right? We got a north and a south pole of the planet. You got a north pole and a south pole in your body too. And when that energy gets stuck and it is not allowed, it can't flow smoothly, we overheat our heads, we overthink, we get headaches, we have, painful thoughts or memories that get stored, or we can get our energy stuck in the heart and we could be extra emotional, or other areas in the body that cause problems. So week one, we really harp on the grounding. We help establish a really good, strong connection into the earth with some different techniques. And then we go into week two, which is trauma and tension releasing exercises. So these were designed by a man named Dr. David Berceli, and he was a licensed clinical traumatologist. So he would go into these different parts of the world, and he would, like if there was a bombing or something that would happen, he would notice that like all the children or all the people in the shelter, they would all have that natural instinct to protect themselves. Like if a bomb went off or if something came flying at you, you're gonna naturally get into that protection position. But what Dr. Berceli noticed when this was all happening was that the kids would shake, they would tremor when this would happen, and the adults never did. So we started investigating it, and he would ask the parents afterwards, like, did you notice the kids were shaking? Yeah, we noticed. Well, did you feel like you wanted to shake? Well, yeah, we did, but we didn't want the kids to get scared. So we held on to it. Well, actually, by doing that, we're storing that energy in our body. Like if a zebra gets away from a predator on the savannah, they don't go back and relive that story with all of their zebra friends over and over and over and over again. Humans are different. If you got chased down by a thug on the street, that would cause a lot of fear in you, and you would be looking to family or friends or therapists to help you work through that stuff. The zebra, after they get away, if they get away, they shake, they tremor, their bodies naturally want to dissipate all of that chemistry that they created to run. So if we suppress this stuff, from whether that's a big T trauma that's been experienced in somebody's life, or a little T trauma, which could be like working in a stressful environment for 10 years, or even things like cultural traumas, like locking people up in COVID for 3 months, that shifted the way that our environment is around us. There's a level of trauma there that we now as a species are still working through. So those TRE exercises help to activate the body's natural tremoring mechanism to dissipate that stored stuff from your experiences, or even maybe experiences from those in your lineage, from, like, let's say, a war trauma, or something that may have happened to your great grandmother that you would never know of, but is having you look at life through a lens of perception that is not fully truthful, right? So TRE isn't particularly the best things for you to do on the fly, but what I can do is offer a really easy technique. It's one of the best practices, and it's called shaking the tree. It's a Taoist practice. And what we do here is it's really just straightforward. Now, there are some Chinese doctors that will prescribe this for an hour. depending on how the patient shows up. But
Mhm.
it's really powerful. And what you do, it's really quite simple. So you want to stand with your feet planted on the ground. If you could do it outside barefoot, even better. And I'm going to make this a focus. Maybe some people who are watching this have already heard of this technique already. But this one, we're going to really focus on grounding. So what we're going to do is we really want to like plant our feet on the ground and imagine like we're growing roots into the ground from the bottom of our feet. And we're literally just going to, with soft knees, we're going to kind of bounce. And I'm going to step away. I'm going to have to step away from the mic, but we're going to bounce a little bit. And then what we're doing after we bounce we can do it together if you can. If you want to do it with me, we'll bounce for a minute and then we can stop. And when we stand still after we're bouncing, you'll feel chi or energy moving through your body. So if you've been sitting for a long time, you can do something like shaking the tree, and that will change things for you. Let me see if I can switch my microphone up, and then I can still talk as I do this. All right, can you hear me, Anna?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So shaking the tree, feet planted, we're just going to, my computer screen is bouncing all over the place. I don't normally do it right here. We just want to bounce our knees, and we're going to let our hands hop around, and they act like little pumps. Like the wrists are actually pumping, and the knees are pumping the blood that is in our hips, and our thighs, and our calves, and our ankles. And we're visualizing, we're imagining, and we're feeling that anything that might be stuck, it can get loose and it could flow out of our body. We can let it go into the earth. Just like the earth can transform carbon dioxide to oxygen, it could take things that are, we're carrying with us, and it could transform those into elevated emotions or into a higher frequency of energy. So you could just sit here and bounce like this for a minute, 3 minutes. You can shake up to the sky.
Nice.
And you can shake down to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you're a tree, and the wind is blowing through the tree, and any of the dead leaves that aren't being fed anymore, they're blowing away. They're leaving you. They go to the ground, they decompose, and you're pulling energy up. You're getting the water and the nutrients from the earth, and you're bringing it into your body so that you can, again, get this energy circulating, and that you can start to feel better and have better performance at work, better connections with your family members, not so stressed out or short fused, or whatever it is that you're noticing in your day. Shaking the tree is such an easy practice. It looks like it's too good to be true. Do it for 2-3 minutes. Stop when you're done. Just stop and stand still. And just feel the energy. You might feel your blood pulsing through your veins and your arteries, but beneath that you might feel like a little tingling sensation, and that's what the Chinese call qi. And when we can get that energy moving, it activates all of our meridians, and you're set.
Wow, yeah, it looks like a very easy technique. Everyone of us can do it on a daily basis. And again, like when people think it's too easy to be true, but they never tried doing it, they would never know. I mean, it's worth trying and see for themselves how they feel. And like you said, it just keeps the energy flowing and let you release all of that stagnant energy that really like a blockage for you. So you need to find a way to release it, and that could be one of them. Yeah,
Definitely.
I think people should try and see for themselves, and that's a great technique to have. And also in your program, you are focusing on leading from your heart. And I want to ask you, why is that important? Why we should lead from the heart as being the center for, all of our power? And how can people find a way to tune in from, to bring their thoughts from their head to their heart?
Great question. So it's commonplace these days to overthink. We don't want to shun the mind, right? It's because of our brains that have allowed, in the West per se, to get ahead and to work really hard and to develop the technology that we're using to talk to one another tonight. But the problem is that when we get up into our head, we are not able to send the signal out with power. So think about it like a radio receiver in your car. So you can tune the station to Z100 100.3, and you're going to get a certain sound. But your amplifier, which is what powers the speakers and the subwoofer in the car, that's what's going to give you the thump when you're going down the road, and the fidelity and the great, it's like when you're at a rock concert or something and you feel the bass hitting, right? That energy is what is penetrating and powering the field around you. So we want to have what's called heart and brain coherence, where the two are communicating effectively. So you can think about your intention and send out an electrical signal from your mind and power it and magnetize that thing that you're intending to do and magnetize it back to the heart. So to be a heart-led leader, the heart is the center of our body. It's essential for our survival. It's revered by poets as the emotional center of our being. But if we're not tuning into the heart, we are not nearly as effective. We're not nearly as powerful as we truly can be. So it's just a matter of becoming conscious and aware of that. Another little tip that I like to do, I don't have one nearby, but I take an index card or a Post-it note, and on one side I write 5 conscious breaths, and on the other side I write 5 deep breaths, 5-second inhale, 5-second exhale, right into the center of the chest, like your nose is right in your heart center. And when you can breathe in and out of the center of your chest at a slower and deeper rate than you would normally do, your heart goes into something called heart coherence. HRV, heart rate variability, is something that's gotten really popular in the last few years with the advent of the Oura Ring and, the technology that's in the iWatches to measure how your nervous system is doing. So without having those tools, we can just simply, at different points in the day, tune into our heart and take 5 conscious breaths, and in and out of the center of the chest, feeling gratitude or feeling an elevated emotion, and you're using your heart to bring your whole body into synchronization so that all of the different organs systems in your body are working together as one unit, as a team, versus having them being out of balance and then working against each other. So 5 conscious breaths. Take a piece of paper, 5 CBs, I call them for short. 5 conscious breaths, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, right into the center of your chest, and stick it up around your house, or put one in your car, or put one next to your cash in your wallet, so that every time you go in there, you tune into your heart and you remember that, oh, wow, okay, you know what? This $5 from my Starbucks is going to help pay for this kid's, whatever that they're doing. And it's going to serve them. And I can tune that money with the power of my heart as I exchange it for this wonderful coffee that I'm going to drink.
Right. Yeah, that's something important we should keep in mind, that everything comes from the heart, and like you said, it's emotional center, and it helps us to kind of connect all of our organs and like body system as feeling like we are the one, and like lead from that place. And like with all those exercises, we also want to feel the higher frequency emotion while we're doing those breathing exercises. And like you mentioned, gratitude is one of them. And everyone could find something they could be grateful for every day, either in the morning when you wake up or before you go to bed. You just need to kind of think about what you have right now and appreciate it. And again, like that will help you to come to that place where you can also tune in to your emotions that coming from the heart. And eventually, I mean, it will take time. I'm pretty sure it took time for you too, but it is possible, and each one of us can come to that place. It's just a matter of us being consistent with all those habits and knowing that it works. By looking at other people stories, we know that it definitely will work for us, but it's just a matter of us again doing them, not just talking about it. And also, I wanted to touch upon other very important part of your program, where you are focusing on giving more than just like when you compete with others, right? You are not trying to kind of like see how you can be better than another person, but rather if you just focus on yourself and your own progress, and how did you evolve during that time, and that will give you the certain like metrics to measure, and you see that you kind of like progressing as you evolve. It also gives you this knowing that I'm on my way to greatness, and I'm better than I was yesterday. And that actually kind of like empowering, knowing that I also can share with others. I have something to give. What are your thoughts on that practice of giving, and how can we cultivate that?
What happens with all of the stimulation in our world today is it's very easy for us to become distracted in the things that we're separate from, right? There's a new shiny object over there, or you see somebody who has something that you don't yet. Now, it's one thing to use that as inspiration in your journey to get there, but what oftentimes happen is that we dissipate our energy. We're not able to stay focused because we're seeing and comparing where we are to somebody else and where they are. And really, we have no idea what kind of program they're running based on their experiences in their life, their genetic codes, the things that they've gone through in their life. So sometimes we can see somebody and feel jealous or even envy. How come I don't have this? How come I don't have that? And when we're doing that, we're living in the scarcity mind. We're living in lack, and you can't attract in those things that you want if you're living in that scarcity mindset, because that means that you're separate from it. It's over there. Versus when we're giving, it's like, okay, I've got so much, I want to give it away. That's a energy of abundance, right? Like I want to be able to give because I have something to give. And when we can cultivate that energy, that feeling of abundance, we're magnetizing in more of that. So it would be like walking into a room. You can tell that somebody's angry if they're really heated. You don't have to say a word. They could just be sitting there, and you feel that they're angry. Mm-hmm. When we're separate from something, or we're feeling not worthy of it, or when we have a desire that we're so like we're gonna work, all the hours of the day to get that thing, and blah blah. We have to work. So you might get it. You're just going to have to work so hard to get it. And you're not going to really be able to enjoy it when you do get it, because you're going to be exhausted from working so hard to get it. Right. The American dream of buying a house and all of these things. Because now it's so much of a hassle and production to get that thing. But when we can learn to, in a meditation, or even just as we're walking through life, be in that higher frequency, whether that's joy or gratitude or kindness or compassion, when we can start acting like that in our world, in the way that we move through the world, all of a sudden the universe is saying, wow, okay, this person can handle what we've given him. Let's give them more, right? Mm-hmm. Let's set them up, because the universe knows that it's all fluid. It's all emotion. Everything's the planets, everything's always moving. So if you're in that, like, no, this is mine. This is my money. I'm not going to give it away. You're causing stagnation there, and you're in the scarcity and protection mind. That's the survival mode. It's no different than the kids that, or the people in the shelters that go like that. But when we're secure and we know that, okay, the universe is always going to provide, even if you're in a hard time, know that, okay, you know what, there's a lesson here that I need to learn, and I'm going to be better because of it. Right. Lots of times people have money, they lose money, they get more money, they lose it again. If you trust that you're going to be provided for, and you're walking through life and you're giving and you're being kind and you're taking the actions that you need to take, you're not just surrendering totally, you're going to magnetize in exactly what you want. This is your dream and your reality. So if we're getting caught up in what other people have or what we don't have, we're not creating our dream. So we have to stay in that energy, and we have to feel grateful for it now, as if we already have it. And when we do, it appears in our world in a way that we can least expect it.
Right. And like you said, you have to already feel it as if you have it, not waiting until you get to that certain place or achieve certain, I don't know, reward for something, but actually knowing that you already have everything you need to succeed. You have the tools around you, but maybe you just didn't notice them. You never paid attention, and you didn't appreciate what you have. But again, it all comes from the scarcity mindset, and with us practicing that generosity, that high frequency feelings, we in a way attract what we want because we're already feeling as we have it. So it's just, like you said, sends a signal that I can handle it, and this is who I am. By doing those acts of generosity, of kindness, on a daily basis, we actually shown that we're already this person, and and the universe supports us in that decision. And this is how it goes with, again, first making that decision for yourself and doing something about it, and staying consistent with that. And again, maybe like in the beginning, it could feel like it's not you, or something is, I guess, uncomfortable in a way, because every change is uncomfortable or unknown. That's what people usually feel as a, like a block for them to move forward. But again, like with you practicing all the time, it becomes part of your nature, and you just realize, but you don't need to pretend. It's just who you are now. And again, like, you will see that transformation eventually.
You don't have, it doesn't have to be something grand that you have to be grateful for. It could be something so little as having indoor plumbing or a sewage, right? It can be an amazing experience that you had or that you want to have or whatever, but it can be the hot coffee or the experience that you had. And, for those people who might be tuning into your podcast that might be not fully on board with that, you're telling me I just have to be grateful for it and it's going to come to me. Let me reframe it a different way. Let's say that you are in your head and you're saying, oh, I'm going to be so happy when I find my lover, my partner. I'm going to be so happy when I meet that person. I'm lonely right now. But once I know, I can feel that they're coming. I know once I meet that person, I'm going to be happy. And let's say it takes you a year or 2 years to find that person. You meet this person and you're going to be happy for a few weeks, but then what's going to happen? It's no different than an alcoholic who's drinking, 6 or 8 beers every night. And then they go out to the bar, they're going to need at least 6, 8 or more beers to feel that feeling. If you're programming in that I'm not happy right now in this moment, you're going to go right back to that default program once you meet the person. You might have a stroke of luck, meet them, but you're going to be unhappy really soon after that because that's how you're living. But if you start cultivating that happiness now and realizing that you really are the source of your own happiness, then you're going to actually be able to bring that person into your life because you're resonating at that level where you want to meet that person who is going to really make you happy, right? But if you're waiting for that person to come along so that you're happy, you're in trouble.
Right. Like you said, happiness starts inside out, not the other way around. We don't have to look for external source to give us that joy or happiness. We're the one who can produce it. And with realizing that, you change your like point of view on life, and then you know that you're in control. It's all up to you. And I'm so glad that we had a conversation today. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to tell our listeners in the end?
Yeah. Well, if you found the podcast interesting and you want to go to our website, it's EnergyOnCommand.com. We have a webinar, a masterclass there that goes over the 5 shifts that conscious leaders use to smash through stress, break free from pain, and banish burnout without ongoing therapy or pills. And then if you watch the webinar, we offer a free breakthrough call at the end where we can dive into your life and to see what's working, what's not working, but really, where is it that you want to go? And maybe we can help you get there. And love to offer a discount of $500 off the price of the program if you reference the Intern podcast. And would love to help you. We'd love to get to know what your dreams are. And if we can help you get there, we'll show you the way.
All right. Thank you so much. And I'll put all the information in the show notes of the episode for people to check into. And thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and wisdom. It was a pleasure talking to you, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you, Anna. It was a pleasure. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, hit the subscribe button and share it with others. Stay tuned.